It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to your source for fantasy hockey news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, Big Monday edition. After a jam-packed weekend in the NHL, there is a lot to get to on today's episode. Thank you for joining us. Steele and I are going to break it all down for you. Let's get right to it.
Your Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard the music, and you know what time it is. It's time for the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast with Steele and Flip, a jam-packed Monday edition that is going to give you everything that you need to know from around the world of the NHL and, of course, fantasy hockey. And we're getting to big-time bets for Monday's 6-game board. It's a jam-packed episode, Steele. They usually are on Monday. We got waiver wire targets. We got a lot of news. Jakob Chychrun injured. The Kings doing special things. Bruins clinch. Jack Hughes hits 40. My goodness, this is now crunch time for fantasy GMs and for us, because we got to feed the people with what they need. So I'm going to keep this preamble very short and say thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Steele and I wouldn't be here without y'all, and we hope that we've pushed you into a good position to make some money this season. Steele, there is so much to get to. We want to also talk about Sid and Ovi, an absolute legendary performance from both of them again, head-to-head. But let's get to waiver wire to start. Lots of news. We're going to break it all down. 2 each, though. We're keeping it short and sweet. I'm excited to hear who you have.
Yeah, I got a couple players here. I got 3 players, actually, so 2 from the same team, and then just one that I really want to talk about as well. 2 guys from the Philadelphia Flyers real quick, Owen Tippett and Scott Laughton, both under 40% right now. Tippett, he's on the top line. He's playing with your boy Noah Cates and Joel Farabee for the Philadelphia Flyers. He's on the top power play unit, second penalty kill unit. 6 points in his last 5 games. It's definitely a kid that I'm keeping my eyes on for next season. And then Scott Laughton, 41 points in 68 games. The peripheral stats are great with Scott Laughton as well. And this is the crazy thing. He's averaged 18 and a half minutes all season long, except for the last 3 games. The last 3 games, he's only averaged 13 minutes. Yet he still has 4 points in the last 3 games too. So he's finding the production offensively. He's getting it done. And he's been one of those he's been one of those players that I want to highlight for the Philadelphia Flyers. So both Owen Tippett and Scott Laughton, Philadelphia Flyers, they've won their last 3 games. They're playing good hockey right now. And they've got 4 games this upcoming week. Point. Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators, Buffalo Sabres, and Pittsburgh Penguins. So very advantageous week for those 2 young players.
And Scott Laughton just seems to be one of those guys, Steele, that is like a fantasy darling at times because he can get it done, a little bit of everything for you, like a really good flyer. Wow, sorry, I had to. Week to week sometimes. You know, he's not a guy you're obviously drafting. But very quickly for me, and I like keeping waiver wire short and sweet right now because realistically, you're not making a ton of moves if you're still paying this close attention to the waiver wire at this time of year. It's 1 or 2 moves or hopefully none because your team is just that good and you're banging out right now. But Victor Arvidsson, Steele, this is one of the guys you and I have bring up, I think, every few weeks or a few months because he goes on these little mini heaters. Yeah. And he's just a little dynamo of a player, a guy that I really like. And that second line, again, back together, doing good things. Trevor Moore, Philip Deneau, Victor Arvidsson. If we're talking about one of the more underrated second lines over the last couple of years, fantasy production-wise, those 3 have to be in that conversation. So Victor Arvidsson, 63% owned on ESPN. He's been on a little bit of a heater, having another good season. 2 goals against Winnipeg over the weekend. And the Kings have 4 games this week, Steele. Seattle, Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver. I really like the chances there. And Philip Hedl is my second guy, Steele. Before I turn it back over to you for your take on both of my guys, Philip Hedl is also one of those guys that I really like. 2 points against Florida over the weekend. He's playing with Capo Caco and Alexis Lafreniere, and he's still getting it done. 21 goals, 20 assists, available 11% in ESPN. And again, 4 games this week for the Rangers, Blue Jackets, Devils, Buffalo, and Washington. Hey, If you need a little offensive boost, I like what I'm seeing from Hedl.
Yeah, Hedl and Arvidsson, we love guys from the LA Kings. And I picked up Victor Arvidsson at the very beginning of the fantasy hockey season, and he hasn't left my roster since then. He's been absolutely terrific.
Nice.
Love Philip Hedl. He's been on my team as well for the last 2 months, and he's been absolutely solid alongside Alexis Lafreniere and Capo Caco. So a couple of young guys that we like. We like the LA Kings second-line players, Philip Deneau, Alex Iafallo, Victor Arvidsson, Trevor Moore, all those guys. My last player, it's David Krejci of the Boston Bruins, rostered at 31% right now on Yahoo. If you need offensive production, Krejci's your guy. 55 points in 66 games. If you're looking for peripheral stats,
good year.
Yeah, very good year. If you're looking for those peripheral stats, stay away from Krejci. Shots, blocks, hit, penalty minutes. You won't like what you find there, but the offensive production is there for Krejci. He's the second line center. He's playing between Pavel Zacha and David Pastrnak. You can't go wrong with those two players. If you need goals, you need assists, you need specialty points, Krejci's your guy. He's got 3 goals in his past 4 games, and they've also got 4 games this upcoming week. The best team in the NHL take on the Nashville Predators, Columbus Blue Jackets, Pittsburgh Penguins, and the St. Louis Blues. Very advantageous schedule amongst some of those bottom-tier teams. So David Krejci, Owen Tippett, Scott Laughton, all those guys, can't miss out on them.
We're going to talk about the Boston Bruins in a second here, Steele, and it might be interesting, though, to see what happens now, because they're going to lock up basically everything, right? Home ice advantage, the division is locked up. So I'm interested to see what the coaching staff does in Boston and what that might do to these fantasy Pasternak's going to play less minutes. You can't help but feel they're going to do something to protect some of these players. I don't know. I'm just speculating. So these are one of the things that we have to keep an eye on down the stretch. Speaking of which, injuries are going to really make or break you right now. And Jakob Chychrun is a guy, Steele, that I think you and I actually at the start of the year, even with his doubts of where he was going to play, you have to be careful with this guy with his injuries. He's had an injury history. When he's playing well, there's so much to like about his game, but that's one of those caveats with this player. And here we go again, lower body injury. I don't know if you saw the play against, I think it was Tampa in a very fiery game. Victor Hedman actually slew-footed him in that game. That was the same one.
I didn't see it. I missed it.
It was an awkward play. It was an awkward play, and it's not like terrible, but if you're saying week to week, Steele, what do we have? 3.5 weeks left in the season?
Yeah.
That might be his season if he doesn't come back. And it's just a shame because he really has looked good. And if you have been patient with Chychrun, he's been paying off for you. And, you're going to have to do something to fill that void.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's the thing, too. We've talked about this with Jack Hughes. When he's healthy and he's in the lineup, he's a completely different player. It's absolutely incredible. So it's the same thing with Jakob Chychrun. And like you said, 2 to 3 weeks, he might be out. He might be done for the season. I think the Ottawa Senators are done right now as well. I think this is the cherry on top that solidifies the Ottawa Senators' playoff chances moving forward. They've dealt with injuries all season long to top players in their lineup like Josh Norris, Jakob Chychrun, a few more. We know what they've been through with the goaltenders and Cam Talbot and Anton Forsberg. A lot more recently than all season long, but still. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, and even then, with all the adversity that they've had to come over and fight over, they still had a very, very good chance at making the playoffs. If you look back to the end of February and end of February, early March, they were on a 5-game win streak. They actually might have been in that second wild card spot for a day or two, or maybe just 1 point behind it, but nonetheless. They were creeping. They were in the race. They kept it tight. And then what do? They lose 6 out of their next 7 games to teams like Chicago, to Vancouver, to Calgary. And even though they aren't mathematically eliminated with this Jakob Chychrun injury and the remaining schedule that they have, that is very, very difficult, might I add. So yeah, with Chychrun now out, even though they're not mathematically eliminated, they're pretty much eliminated because of what's happened the last 5 to 6 games, and now having Chychrun go out for the last 2 to 3 weeks of the remaining schedule.
And seeing what we've seen from the Pittsburgh Penguins and even the Florida Panthers, and
Yeah.
we know the Islanders are still holding down that top wildcard spot. Those three teams are I know Florida is still on the outside looking in, but after that, Steele, it's really starting to look like one of those teams, Buffalo, Washington, Ottawa, is going to have to do something really miraculous and get very lucky as well to get in there. So this Chychrun news, again, just not the season for the Ottawa Senators. But my goodness, what would have happened with a full year of Josh Norris, a full year of healthy goaltenders? Now they have some options going into next season. It'll be interesting to see what the Senators do. You know what we're going to do, baby? We're going to get to big-time bets. We have a lot more to talk about. Sidney Crosby goes toe-to-toe with Alex Ovechkin again. I got some hot takes for you, Steele, and some stats that I think you're going to like. Jack Hughes hits the 40 mark. Bruins clinch the Atlantic. And my goodness, the LA Kings on a special heater setting, franchise records. We're going to get to all of it right after the break, which is sponsored by Athletic Greens. Today's episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens and AG1. And it's a product that Steele and I love to use every single day because with just one scoop in your water every morning, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins and minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and everything that you need to start your day right. It's lifestyle friendly, people, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. It's 2023, and AG1 is here for you. Trust me, it costs less than $3 a day. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. With just one scoop in your water every single day, that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. You know, Steele hates his pills, and that's why he's hard on the AG1. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is hit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
I just learned Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right, everything you earned doubled. All the cash back from eating at your favorite soup dumpling restaurant doubled. All the cash back from that trip where you sort of learned to snowboard also doubled. And the best part, you don't have to do anything ridiculous to get it. Nope, Discover does it automatically. Seriously, though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube. So make sure you hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. We appreciate all the love, all the support that our listeners show us every single day. And hopefully everyone out there is in the playoffs right now. You're making the playoffs, you're making the championship, and you're doing well in your matchups this week. Hopefully you get to the semifinals or you're in the finals by now, baby. So playoffs,
very
fantasy-wise, they're right here. NHL playoffs right around the corner. Flip, we got a lot of topics to get to before we get to big-time bets. Where do you want to start? Boston Bruins, LA Kings, Jack Hughes. There's a lot of topics.
You know what? And before we even get to one, and honestly, like I'm just going to throw one out in a second. Watching hockey this weekend was really awesome. Like just straight up and down. I was like, these games they're really starting to make me excited for the postseason, Steele. I think we're in for a real special one.
Oh, yes.
And maybe that's just because you and I are just hockey degenerates and like we could say this every single year. But it's really looking like we're teeing ourselves up here for something awesome. And why don't we start with something that is awesome going on with the Boston Bruins?
Yeah.
And we can keep this one short because we saw it coming. But the Bruins, actually, that game against the Lightning, again, an amazing one. I don't know if you caught any of those highlights. Couple of scraps, couple of real gritty situations that make this game look like it's going to be playoff atmosphere already. They clinched the Atlantic Division, Steele, and they are the best team in the league. What's your take on this other than this team has just been now just straight up and down dominant? And I can't believe you and I have to seriously sit here and eat our crow and our hat and a whole bunch of other stuff, maybe a shoe, because we said I think we both said the Bruins are in for a regression. Boy, were we wrong about that one.
Yeah, we were way off the mark on that take, and they proved a lot of people wrong. I think actually a decent amount of people didn't think the Bruins would be this good, but this is why they've been this good for so long. They've had sensational talent for as long as I can remember. The last 10 to 15 years alone, you go back to when they won the Stanley Cup, Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, Tuukka Rask, legends like Tim Thomas, Zdeno Chara, Milan Lucic when they were here. You look at guys of what the guys they have for the future as well: Pasternak, McAvoy, DeBrusk, Swayman, Allmark. They draft very, very well. They negotiate well, and they do business well. And I think that was a part of the reason why, maybe we thought they were going to be a little bit of a regression. They're starting to pay guys a little bit more. Would they be able to find the right pieces to, fit the puzzle that they've got going here nicely? But they do that every single time. Don Sweeney, Peter Chiarelli, for the last 10 to 15 years, they make the contracts look ever so sweet. Brad Marchand for $6.2 million. David Pasternak, he's just getting his big contract next year, 11.5, whatever it is. They hand out and they negotiate contracts very well to these superstar players. And that's why they've been the best team, or one of the best teams, for the last 2 decades. It seems like they're always in the mix. They're always in the playoffs. They're always making a deep playoff run, it seems like. And that is a huge part of it. The business side of the Boston Bruins, the right contracts, the right players, making the team fit like a very easy puzzle. They do well at the NHL trade deadline every single season as well. They get the guys that they target. And
true.
The fact, again, that we saw a regression and they go out and become the fastest team to 50 points, the fastest team to 50 wins, the fastest team to 100 points. They've already
everything, every record,
every record you could think of, and they've got it as a team. And what Allmark has been able to do as well, the Vezina Trophy. I know he hasn't won it yet, but I'm going to claim it for him.
He's going to win it.
He's going to win it. What Allmark has been able to do this season is one of the most spectacular goalie performances I've seen as a whole in a very long time. So, and this is talking about a lot of great goalies over the last 6 to 7 years. Allmark has been absolutely spectacular. So what this year, the Boston Bruins, just absolutely incredible. Honestly, I'm out of words at this point.
You're out of words, but you nailed a whole bunch of good ones together. Have a sip of water, pal. I don't even think I need to give any more breakdown here, other than I'm going to just say it straight from the heart as a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I want Boston bad in the second round, and I want Toronto to put this beautiful #1, the dream season, right off the rails, baby. But they're going to have to get through the 3 straight time trip to the Stanley Cup and 2 banners in the rafters in the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it's a sleeping giant right now in the Tampa Bay Lightning. You don't want to poke the bear. They're having their troubles. I know it. And we're not getting off on a tangent. There's going to be lots of playoff breakdowns, X factors, under the radar guys. We're going to talk about playoff pools. If you're in those, lots of that content coming up. But still, it's a bit of a sleeping bear, I think, situation right now at the Tampa Bay Lightning. And yeah, they're having their struggles. But the second that puck drops on game 1, they will not be rattled and they will be ready to go. So we're going to get there. But anyway, Bruins, special stuff. We're going to get to Jack Hughes as well. I have to talk about Sid and Ovi quickly. So very, very quickly, I just had to show some love to the LA Kings. Tie the franchise mark with points in 11 straight games. And we mentioned Arvidsson in that second line. This is just a balanced team. And Jonas Korpisalo's ad, I know he's been splitting time with Copley, but this just seems like one of those teams, Steele, like they're sneaky. You know what I mean? Like they're balanced. They have the veteran pieces. They have the young talent. Kopitar, Doughty, like this experience is also there. I'm just so excited to see what these special regular seasons mean in the playoffs. And we're going to talk about Jack Hughes' special season. But yeah, I don't know. LA Kings lurking around in the top of that division. Big 4-1 win over the Jets over the weekend as well, Steele.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the LA Kings, with everything that they've been through this season as well, trading Jonathan Quick and that chaos at the NHL trade deadline and the crooked numbers, losing 9-6 to the Seattle Kraken or 9-7 to the Seattle Kraken, early, mid-season. They've had some very crooked games, but what I'm looking at right now, they're second in the Pacific Division. They either need to get to the top of the division, they need to get ahead of Vegas, or they need Seattle to get third in the Pacific Division. If they go up against the Edmonton Oilers in the first round, I'm not sure that they can take on the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. to start the playoffs.
Didn't they go toe-to-toe last year? Didn't that happen? I swear the Kings and Oilers, but it went 7, didn't it?
They won 7. They won 7 games, but Edmonton
But now
Oilers still came up. Edmonton
Okay.
Oilers still came up on top, and this is a different Connor McDavid we're seeing this season. He's shooting the puck on net more. He's scoring the goals. He's doing a lot of it himself alongside Leon Draisaitl. Zach Hyman's a different breed. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins a different breed. They've got Matthias Ekholm now. They got Stuart Skinner instead of Mike Smith. I still don't trust the goaltending, but all I'm saying is that in the first round, I would not want to be going up against Connor McDavid.
Well, 8-0-2, this LA Kings team over the last 10, first of all. And
I know.
No. I'm not just fully disagreeing with you, Steele, because, I've been on here talking about putting futures bets on the Edmonton Oilers for the last 3 seasons, and that's just because they have Connor McDavid. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm going to say is, yeah, I know Mike Smith was obviously not the guy to trust, but let me hit you with this take, since we're going down this rabbit hole. If you have a guy in Mike Smith who's played actually quite a bit in the playoffs and he goes on these crazy runs, or you have Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell, I know during the regular season Mike Smith is Mike Smith, but I'd almost prefer a wily veteran in there to these two guys right now heading in to a red-hot LA Kings team if that's who they face. Anyway, let's leave that for our playoff tee-up because I think you and I are going to have to dive back into that one. I have to talk about Sid and Ovi. I'm getting there in a second, Steele. But why don't I throw it over to you for Mr. Jack Hughes? 40 goals. Devils clinch a playoff spot. What are you seeing from Jack Hughes? Because I know what I'm seeing.
We'll get the Jack Hughes and the rest, Sid and Ovi and Big Time Bets very, very soon. But I do have to let everyone know about our sponsorship with Built Bar. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. If you're looking for delicious, healthy treats, then you need to try Built Bar right now. And if you're like me, where you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise the taste, then man, oh man, do I have just the thing for you. You got to try Built. And with Built, healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious. You won't think they're the perfect snack for you, but they actually are before or after the gym. And what makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right up my alley and right up your alley as well. Real chocolate is absolutely the best thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, and many, many more. And now you don't even have to wait around to order from Built.com like we've been suggesting for years. You still can, but now you can go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and pick up a box from there. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Or if you're closer to Sam's Club, grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, Browner, Batty, and Churro. Get some Built Bars and thank me later.
Today's episode is brought to you by HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. With the cost of groceries going up and up, now is the perfect time to get started with HelloFresh. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. I love HelloFresh for that exact reason. It saves me time and money, and I don't have to sacrifice taste or quality. For more information, go to HelloFresh.com/NHL60 and use code NHL60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/NHL60. Again, today's sponsor is HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Don't forget, we are free and available on your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube. So hit the subscribe, hit the follow button. Flip and I appreciate all the love, all the support our listeners show us every single day. We're going to be here for you as well during the playoff season and the summertime right around the corner. Don't miss an episode Monday through Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Flip, like you said before, Jack Hughes having an unbelievable season for the New Jersey Devils. And look, you and I have talked about this kid a lot, what he can do when he's healthy. And what else can you expect from the first overall pick in 2019 when he plays almost every single game in a season? I've been hard on Hughes since entering the NHL.
Yes,
like I said, he's missed significant amount of time. He needs to bulk up. He needs to get bigger. He can't get pushed around in the NHL anymore. We know the skill that he has. So I've been hard on him since entering the NHL. But honestly, looking back at the 4 years he's been through already, 21 points in 61 games in his rookie season. Yeah, everyone struggles in the rookie season. He's talked about the struggles that he went through, publicly, in interviews and things like that, where he's talked about how difficult it was in his rookie season, second season in the NHL.
Mental health.
Yeah, the mental health of it. Second season in the NHL, COVID happens. Everyone had a down season then. Everyone struggled. 31 points in 56 games. It's still a little bit better than the rookie season. Then last year, even with missing half the season, he put up 56 points in 49 games. He was over a point per game player last year, and he only played half the season. And now at 22 years old, he's putting up over 90 plus points in his fourth year. It's absolutely incredible what he's been able to do. And we've talked about this since starting this podcast, a year and a half ago or a year and 3 months ago. Jack Hughes is a special talent, but he needs to stay healthy. And the New Jersey Devils aren't going anywhere unless he's playing 75 to 85% of the games. And that's exactly what he's done this year.
Yeah, even higher. That's just how important he is. He needs to be playing, 90% of these games for the New Jersey Devils. And after, he was one of the highlights for me over the weekend. And Steele, his 2 point, he's got 5 points in his last two games. He was all over the ice against the Ottawa Senators. It felt like, he had 2 points. It felt like he could have had like 8. That was how confident he looked. And that's what I wanted to get to with Jack Hughes is, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, he's starting to play his way into the top 15 best players in the NHL. Yeah. And, maybe we're not talking about straight up fantasy value because, you can't ignore the Brady Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuks of the world, tease to the big time bets coming up at the end of the show. Because he doesn't get those peripherals, right? Steele, it's not his game to hit and block shots. That's not what he does. But now that he's getting that health and getting the run out, you're seeing the confidence, and he's all over the ice. This episode's getting super long, people. Thank you for riding with us. The Jack Hughes 40-goal mark, we had to talk about it. He was on both of our top 5 players under something? We had him on the list, people. He's got to be on your list as well. Okay, off this very Sid Ovi conversation, because if you weren't able to watch it live and you haven't seen the highlights yet from that game on Saturday between Washington and Pittsburgh, I would run the tape back because you're going to miss these two while they're gone, Steele. I think that's what I wanted to start off. We're going to miss these two when they're gone because they bring out the best in each other. You could see it at the end of the game when Sidney Crosby won it, and they're all fighting for the playoff spot. Ovi, Sid go toe-to-toe, and this rivalry has defined the NHL, Steele. And just very quickly, head-to-head, and this was a sneaky stat that I had to write down for you. Crosby and the Penguins actually hold the advantage head-to-head by 9 games. 9 more wins for Sid and the boys head-to-head against Ovi. And how about this, Steele? Head-to-head, Crosby, 23 more points than Mr. Ovechkin. When you talk about the two greatest, you might have to just remember that Sid has gotten it done that much more and the wins to prove it. So just a little, good stat there, I think, from that head-to-head.
They've had a very competitive, very strong battle head-to-head between Ovechkin and Crosby for the longest times. Getting drafted first overall back-to-back seasons. 2007, 2008. Or sorry, when they got drafted. But that was the first thing I wanted to talk about as well with Ovechkin and Crosby is how much longer are we actually going to see these guys in the NHL? Because not a lot of players play past 40 years old. I think about some of the most recent guys. Obviously you've got Craig Anderson, who's 41, and Mike Smith last year, who just recently retired, who was 41. Those two were goalies, but most recently, you've got Zdeno Chara. You've got Joe Thornton. You've got Joe Thornton.
Eric Stahl still out there.
Yeah, Eric Stahl still out there. You've got guys like Daniel Alfredsson back in 2015, I believe it was. You got a couple of other guys. Jaromir Jagr, who was 45 years old back in 2017. So Not a lot of guys
still playing.
And he's still playing. That's the most ridiculous thing, too. But
not
a lot of players play past 40 years old and even get to 41, 42, or however old they get. But, Ovechkin's 37. Crosby's 36. How much longer are we realistically going to be able to watch these two guys? We've been watching them. I've been watching them my entire life. Everyone's been watching them for their entire life. So
legit, your entire life.
My entire life has been Crosby, Ovechkin, and some of those other guys that have just recently retired. And, obviously it's the passing of a torch. It's going to McKinnon, McDavid, Pasternak, all those younger guys now, Matthews. So it's been incredible to watch these guys. It's been incredible to watch them go head-to-head in the regular season, in the playoffs. And it's been a spectacular ride. And yeah, Crosby and Ovechkin, some of the best to ever play the game, to ever lace them up.
Such a good game on Saturday, too. Seriously, run the tape back. It's just awesome hockey back and forth. And you can just see how much Ovechkin from his office, just such a bullet. Like, it's like, it's coming. It's like taxes, man, and death. You just know it's coming. Like, it's coming for you. Anyway, not to get morbid, because this is when I get the most fired up, Steele. Monday, 6-game board. We're keeping this very short and sweet, people, because, we're on the Locked On Fantasy Network. We're part of those. That's the crew, but they're keeping these short and sweet. So they're on us here, Steele. If you don't mind, you want me to kick off the picks, or how are you feeling here?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll start us off. I'll start us off to start this fresh week. I do really like all three of my picks, actually. So if you don't mind, I'll just rattle all three of them off.
Fire it off.
Avalanche, first pick of the night. Avalanche on the puck line against the Anaheim Ducks. They lost their last matchup against the Ducks earlier this year, 5-3. But the 7 previous games, they won all 7 by 2 or more goals. So that's the first pick. Avalanche on the puck line, and like you say, it's definitely going to be a revenge game. And they're looking. Look, they're only a few points back of the top position in the Central. So
and closing.
They're closing. Avalanche puck line. That's the first pick. Second pick of the night. The Wild and the Minnesota Wild and Seattle Kraken have only played 5 times in the history between these two teams. 4 of them have gone under the number. So I'm going to take the under 6.5 in the Wild Kraken game. I might even put it down to maybe 5.5, depending on what the odds are.
Ooh,
but I'm going to play a little bit safer. I'm going to stick, as of right now, I'm sticking with the under 6.5 in the Seattle Kraken and Minnesota Wild matchup. So that's the second pick of the night. And this is my lock of the night, and it banged out for me last week. Oilers and Coyotes over 6.5 goals in this matchup. That's my lock of the night. 1 under, 1 over, and a puck line. Those are my 3 picks for Monday.
Love it. My first pick was also Avs on the puck line, so thank you for the preamble. Explained it very nicely. Like the revenge angle. The Colorado Avalanche have a pretty easy schedule right now. A couple of games against Zona. They're playing Sunday against Zona. They're currently winning that game. Looks like they'll get the 2 points there. Montreal at Buffalo Steel is my second pick before I get to my lock of the night, which is a player prop. Montreal at Buffalo, you know where I'm going with this one. And when I look at the last few numbers between these two, where do you think it's headed? The total has gone over the number in 8 of the last 10 games for Montreal. They just hung in 8 spot. Who are they playing on Saturday? They just pumped a team, Columbus, 8-2. Buffalo, obviously, their strength is scoring goals.
Yep.
They're desperate right now. They're probably on their way out of the playoff race, but I think they're going to get theirs. Tuck has been scoring. Thompson is scoring again. Over 6.5, minus 130 is the odd there, Steele. And honestly, one of my favorite games on this board is Senators Panthers. And I think the Tkachuk brothers are going to put on a show, both playing very well. And before having his 7-game point streak snapped in the last game against the Rangers, Tkachuk, Matthew, 7 goals, 9 assists over 7 games, red hot. And when these two go head-to-head, Steele, there's going to be something special from both of them. I kind of wanted to just cop out and do anytime point for both of them. But I think Matthew responds. No points in the previous game against the Rangers, held off the point score sheet. Give me Matthew Tkachuk. Anytime goal, my lock of the night.
I absolutely love that. Those Tkachuk brothers are definitely going to put on a show for all the fans out there. And again, there's still a lot riding for both of those teams. Again, Senators not mathematically eliminated yet, so they're still playing
technically
the chance of that second wild card spot. But again, so are the Panthers. They're not in the wild card spot. They're a point or 2 back right now. They need the 2 points for sure. So it's going to be an absolutely wild ride between those Atlantic rivals and the Senators and Panthers. Those are our picks for Monday night. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out Game to Game. Every moment, every performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On hosts can deliver. Thank you so much again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.